Hey, we got Don in Los Angeles. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, John. Well, you know, I was talked to Jen and Russell at the last part of February, and I got to tell you, I was shot down within 5 minutes, which was really bad for my ego. But my wife said that my problem was I didn't state what I was going to talk about it, and then follow up with what I talked about. So I'm going to use what I know of theoretical physics to redefine what God is.
Why?
To the point where, why?
Yeah, and the reason I ask that is this. First of all, neither one of us are physicists. But if you're using theoretical physics to redefine God, what does that get us, redefining God?
Well, it gives me insight as to what the actual question is. I was an atheist for a day back in the 60s, and I went to a Jesuit college, and I tried on atheism, and I realized atheism is a stepping stone to something else. It tells us what things aren't, but it doesn't tell us what things are.
Yeah, but so, atheism, I agree, is nothing more than not being convinced that a God exists, but it's not supposed to tell you anything about anything. But atheism, in the sense of I'm not convinced that a God exists, how do you fix that by redefining God? I mean, if what we're rejecting is all the various gods that people have, hang on, if we're rejecting all the various gods people have been proposing, it would seem that redefining God, you could define a God that I would be happy to say is real.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say this bottle of Coke Zero, which I should be getting paid for drinking all the time. You could say this bottle of Coke Zero is God, and I will agree with you that this is real, that it exists, but it doesn't have any of the attributes that have normally been considered godlike. So if you redefine God in such a way that it's real, what does that do for the broader conversation when there are billions of people who believe in a God that doesn't necessarily match up with your redefinition?
Well, maybe we can redefine it in such a way that people can accept it. First of all, before I go on, like I said, I was an atheist for a day, and then I got exposed to Buddhism, and then I read, are you familiar with Alan Watts?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a seminal book for me because it told me, the actual purport of the book was to say that it's impossible to be God.
Well, under certain definitions, but go ahead.
Yeah. And so when I was trying to define what theoretical physics said, this is a consensus. It starts off with the Big Bang. It was very hot, very dense. Entropy was very low. And then we had the expansion, and we're in the universe we have now. And the projection into the future is that matter will pretty much go away. Things will become very cold. There won't be any interaction. There won't be any definition about how big the universe is.
Sure, I'm fine with the notion of the standard model with Big Bang cosmology that ultimately results in heat death. Those are all physical attributes of the world in which we inhabit.
Right.
There are no variables. There are no variables in physics that X equals God. So what is it about this that allows you to come up with a definition of God?
Okay, I'm going to have to jump into what God isn't, okay? And you're writing a book right now, I believe.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm much more interested in what God is, because the list of things of what God isn't could take us forever.
Well, okay, let me just define what God is. It's impossible to be God, given the standard definition of what God is.
Hang on.
Okay.
If you say it's impossible to be God, then doesn't that necessarily mean there is no God?
There is no God in the sense of what we typically think of God. So let me just redefine what God is, okay?
Okay, give me a definition of God.
God is that which exists. Existence is existence. It's a tautology. Existence is existence. And so we can call that God because you throw the whole set of that which is, and just call it God. It has no attributes that we usually consider what God is, which is all-knowing.
That is an absolutely useless definition of God.
Why call it
God? If you say God is everything that exists, we already have a label for everything that exists.
Right, and it's existence, right?
Existence, yes. And so why call existence?
Okay.
Why call existence God? Why use a different label? That label has to bring something or add something.
Well, okay, so there's a bit. This is kind of a joking reason. I'd like to run for public office, and I can't call myself an atheist. That's one throwaway, dumb idea.
Okay. Hang on.
The other thing is,
hang on, Don.
What? No,
No, stop, Don.
I'm
Stop.
just joking.
Stop.
Okay.
Atheists can run for office in the United States.
They'll never get elected.
They have been elected. They have. Oh my God! Stop. They have.
I know.
Stop.
Okay.
They have been elected. I agree that it's more difficult to be elected. But if the goal here is to say I'd like to be elected to public office, and I don't think my chances are very good if I call myself an atheist, therefore I need to come up with a definition of God that I can say I believe in, then you are being utterly fucking dishonest, and I wouldn't vote for you no matter what your policies are.
I know, it was a joke. Okay.
Okay. You called the show, John. You called the show, and you want to make an argument for redefining God, and I'm trying to give you every opportunity. So drop the jokes and just say what it is.
Okay. When Alan Watts came up with his book, The Book, he was defining the fact that it was impossible to be God because there's nothing changing. There's nothing, all knowledge is at one time, all potency is all inclusive. And can I just lay down the rules of existence?
Why?
Can I do that?
What? So first of all, I asked you to get, Don, I asked you to get back to defining what God is, and all you did was restate the same damn book report that you gave me 30 seconds before that.
Yeah.
Get to the point.
The point is that when we're talking about the thing that Alan Watts talked about was the God game. You said you're familiar with Alan Watts. I don't know. He was a Taoist way back when, and it made a lot of sense to me because when we think about what the normal notion of what God is, it's being omniscient, omnipotent, and all the attributes that we think of being God. But when you think of what it is to actually be God, you find out that it's an impossibility. You cannot.
I swear to the God that you're redefining. If you go down this same repeated thing one more time, I'm hanging up on you. Get to the point.
The point is that existence is. It's a tautology.
It's pronounced tautology, and of course it is, and that has nothing to do with the definition of God. You got one more shot, Don.
I really am surprised that I'm only getting one shot at.
No. Not one shot. One more shot, and now you blew it. Because I'm a man of my word, and if I ever do run for office, I will not be trying to redefine a God in order to help buffalo people into thinking that I'm electable.
But why? Okay, you say it's existence. Well, then what? Like, where do you go from there? I'm not sure what you get any attributes from that, or any directions, any morals. Like, there's.
If they're co-equal, if God equals existence, then you've added nothing to it. That's the point I was making. If you want to say God is existence, you would have to, in order for God to be something distinct, it would have to be God is existence plus. Mm-hmm. And I would like to find out what the pluses are, because there's no reason to call it God. And it is dishonest and confusing, because if, for example, let's say the overwhelming majority of people on the planet think that the sky is blue. I don't get to redefine blue in an attempt to prove them wrong. I have to address their actual claim. And that's true even if the majority of people on the planet define God as the omnimax thing, as the classical, the God of classical theism, that's all good, all powerful, all benevolent, or all knowing, etc. If that's that, I don't get to create a new definition of God and pretend that I am either arguing against theirs or that mine is essentially the same as theirs. And that's what's happening.
Yeah. It makes no sense. It doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't add anything to the conversation. You just trying to substitute another word for existence, and it's not adding anything. It's not doing anything at all.
Which, by the way, if God is existence, this exists, and it is God. You basically made an argument that this bottle that I was talking about before is God. My flower garden is God. That tree is God. I am God. Oh, wait, it's impossible to be God. Therefore, existence is impossible. Don, you got some work to do.